Is being recorded.
I've just started the recording, mate. Because if I forget to press record, what happens is I get to the end of talking to someone for like an hour, then I go, oh fuck.
Really good content in there. We didn't record any of it.
Yeah, which hasn't happened yet, which is amazing because I'm pretty lax when it comes to anything like that. So,
mate, this is what you don't want to record. Trust me.
You what?
This is the one you don't want to record. I can't believe you did me like that on the on Mark's podcast that you just threw under the bus there. With,
did you? Have you listened to it?
I've not listened to. I've listened to Mark's last night, or half last night and half this morning, and then Jay's this morning as well. Cool. They're the two I haven't listened to yet. So it's because I didn't subscribe to the YouTube channel. I've got the podcast, but I've subscribed to the YouTube channel now, so that will hopefully ping up when you upload new videos.
Yeah, it's really hard to try and get like all the platforms talking to each other, you know, because like I'll just do a podcast, but then you need like YouTube to put the videos on, then they go on my website, and then the Spotify has to link with it. It's been such a learning curve getting everything to work, or not.
The tags on YouTube.
Yeah, but I'm starting to look at. This is how crap I am, man. Like with I started an Instagram. And I felt like such a loser. I had to sit and go through like how to use an Instagram account, how to use hashtags.
I did exactly the same. The YouTube channel. I didn't realise. I looked actually on. I think it was Jay's podcast on the YouTube channel. It's the first one I watched on the app, and I didn't see. You have to put 5 hashtags in your description as well at the end.
Right.
But I don't know why. Apparently, that's the thing. That's like good for your algorithm, and then you do the tags on top of that, even if it's the same thing.
I'll have to delve into this more because my plan is I'm going to try and get just content to start with, and then I'm going to look really into sort of promoting it to a wider audience. But I feel like because this will be episode, what will I be on to? I think I've done about 10 that I've recorded currently, and I think there's about 7 or 8 that's live.
Yeah,
but it's trying to get the content, man, and then because you feel like I don't want someone to come along and then realize, oh, he's got like 2 videos. Woohoo!
I think the videos I've watched so far, man, I think they've been class. I think the format works really well. It's very like relaxed atmosphere rather than.
That's down to my lax planning.
Well, it's fucking working. But no, I just think I like the format of how it all works rather than being sort of studio. It's like it's at home, isn't it? It's just
man,
relaxed as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's just like, do you know when I did my first interview was with a band called Not Now Norman, and I had like a script kind of written out of things I wanted to ask, and then I got about 30 seconds into it, and I went, oh bollocks to this, because I can't enjoy speaking to someone, and I know the sort of things I want to ask people, and it's better just to have a conversation, I reckon, and just. It's more natural and more like you get a connection with people rather than just reading from a script.
Yeah.
So, but I suppose we should really start with how we know each other, and if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and sort of how we met, and it might be worth even talking about Saqib, because I reckon that's going to come up a few times, and people will be like, "What are they slavering about, Saqib?"
Yeah, Saqib's a movement, isn't it? We probably. Save that till the end of the introductions. But so we met during our residential week. We're both doing the same music degree with the Open University. Although you're a madman doing 2 years at once. So hats off to you for doing that.
Cheers,
man. It's very impressive, mate. I'm struggling with 1 year, and you're just bashing out 2 at the same time. So
honestly, so much regret doing it though. I wouldn't advise that to anyone.
Well, you still got a better hairline than me, mate, so you must be...
Taking the colour out of my hair, though, like, I don't know if you can pick it up, but I'm, like, turning into Schofield over here.
You're a bit of a silver fox, mate, but you're rocking it. Still a handsome guy.
Cheers, mate.
But yeah, so then we met. You were the first or second... I think you were the second. I think I met Stu before I met you. Walked in, and there were just 2... You know, everyone was in the same situation. There was, 12, 13 of us on this course, maybe more. So we were at the Trinity Laban Conservatoire in Greenwich, and we did a residential week back in April. Seems like such a long time ago now.
Yeah.
And just completely out of my comfort zones. And I've watched a few of your other podcasts, and you said it to everybody about how you felt out of your comfort zone straight away. And I just remember just feeling exactly that, just walking in there thinking all these people can play their instruments to a lot better standard than I can. People can read music to a much better standard than I can. And just there's a bit of apprehension, just a bit nervous really, because I've not done anything like that for such a long time.
Yeah.
But by the end of the week, for me, I think you said it in some of the podcasts as well. It's sort of, that's the best thing, or one of the best things I've done musically. It was just a great experience. That with the social side of things, the social aspects, we stayed at a travel lodge. You need to probably put a link in that in the description. But
the travel lodge page is going in there, mate.
It needs to be in there. The reviews left by myself, yourself, and Stu. I mean, we've done Sakib. Sakib was the manager of the hotel.
Yeah.
And the three mature males that we all are thought it'd be a really funny idea to make #signature Sakib and make it poor Sakib doesn't know what's going on. But if you're watching Sakib,
to be fair, if you are watching Sakib, shame on you because I think what needs a little bit of context is, so Sakib, he was the manager, or one of the managers, I think, of the travel lodge in Greenwich. But was it our first or second night when we tried to get out to go for some drinks, and he'd pretty much accosted me and had me to try and leave him a review. It was a very weird social situation, wasn't it? It was. So then we left him the best reviews, but also kind of the worst reviews at the same time.
There were a few innuendos in there, weren't they? That Sakib went above and beyond, and maybe a little bit too above and beyond. But he was a good guy. Although he did get me up against the wall and say, "Can you leave me the review before I left?"
And let me check your phone. Let me see it's posted.
Okay, show me the email. Okay, he's here. He was very forthcoming, wasn't he?
Oh, but yeah, man, I miss Sakib. The Sakib days is going to be like an art movement. Do you know how you get like Baroque and classical era? And I think we're going to get a Sakib era, and then in that part of our life is Sakib era.
Yeah, I think so. To me, mate, it'd be good if we both do pass the Stu as well. If we all pass the uni course, we'd be rude not to welcome him to our graduation as sort of our guest of honour.
Absolutely. Are you going to go to the graduation down in London? Is that the plan?
Yeah, I'm going to probably get the same travel lodge. It's nowhere near the Barbican, but
that's my plan as well. Like, oh God, I hope he still works there. I'm going to be so bummed out if I go all the way down to London and like stay.
Travel lodge by the time we get back there.
Yeah, but yeah, I'll be gutted if I go and he's not there anymore. There's so many just silly memories of that place. And then the master key.
Yeah.
The key that opened everyone's room.
Oh, that was brilliant. Nobody believes me. I'm like, yeah, we just had master keys for everybody's room. I'm like, sure, there's a safeguarding issue there.
Absolutely. And waking up to just find somebody who's been in your room and just rearrange the furniture. Classic Sakib. But yeah. So before we get sidetracked too much with Sakib, because that will happen. So I've known you for like a short time. Just sort of we met at the sort of residential, and we had a really good laugh there, and it was nice, a great place to sort of push you out your comfort zone. And but I didn't really know much about your music making prior to you getting, to us meeting in Laban. So like, what made you want to do the Open Uni degree, and then what was your music making? What did it look like before I knew you?
So the degree, I think I've always wanted to have a degree. When I was 18, 19, I got into different universities, but had to defer because it just wasn't the right time personally for me to do it. So I always wanted to make sure that's something that I did, but it came sort of later stage. And it was when I work at a school, similar to yourself, I work at a school, but you can't obviously progress very much in a school without having the degree and the QTS. So that was the main motivation behind doing the degree. I was always very adamant that I didn't want to do a degree in music because I love music so much. I didn't want it to be something that I no longer love because I'm doing too much of an academic route into music, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which actually now it's all said and done. I've not found it like that. And the last year or the joint last year for yourself, for me, has been the best year at the OU.
Absolutely.
And that collaboration and working, you know, there's always so awkward when you join sort of like the Open University, and it's like you have to work with other people, and it's like work with somebody in your group, you think, God, I don't know these people, and they're going to think, what a knob. And you probably think that in real life anyway, but it was just nice. It's nice to just work with other people, isn't it? And that residential week really put us out of my comfort zone. But you know, you make friendships and you talk to people and work with musicians you probably never would have done. So yeah, that's I'm happy that I've done the degree. It wasn't something that I thought I'd ever would do, but I've done it, and I'm really happy that I've done it. Musically, my music at the moment it's a bit in limbo. I'm not really doing a lot. I've only just started, should I say, doing some music again. That's my first ever solo venture.
Nice.
Which we'll probably delve into a little bit more. But musically, I'm 31, I think, 31 still. I've been doing music for the last 16, 17 years. But music was one of those things. I call myself a closet guitarist, a closet songwriter. When I was at school, when I was at secondary school, so I don't know what it's like where you guys are, but we had 11 to 14 middle school and then an upper school. I would never tell anybody that I played guitar or sang, God forbid. It would
Really?
No, I was very, very shy at admitting that was my sort of passion. That's what I love doing. I don't know. I think I watched your podcast with Mark the other day, and you were sort of saying about, you know, people sort of judge you, don't they, when you first get into music, and you say, you know, you're singing or you're playing guitar. Even more so, I think, if you say you write songs, God, I'm just like,
yeah. See, that's really hard, man, because so you were saying about, you know, you wouldn't tell someone you played guitar, or see, lots of people at my school, like, they knew I played guitar because I had to get on the bus with my guitar on my back. And some of my pals would be like, take the piss and be like, ooh, guitar lessons today. And to be honest, at the time when I was doing it, I started guitar lessons because I got out of doing RE lessons, because they happened at the same time. And I was a bit of I wasn't a great student, and I just messed around, to be honest, when I was at school, which is a great advert for a teacher, but I'm much more sensible now. But, you know, like, to me, it was just it's something that I did because a few of my mates were doing it, and there was a load of bands in my school. So a lot of the people that I looked up to were the sort of the lads that were in bands already, and they'd play. We had like monthly band nights. But for you, it sounds like that was a bit different. Like, you didn't have you know.
Well, yeah, there's a similarity. So I was not a good student either. I was a little bit of a terror at school. So the reason my dad always played guitars, and had guitars around the house. It was always something that I sort of aspired to do. When I was at school, I think year 8 or 9, when I was sort of first started getting excluded from school, I had a teacher that was really good, my music teacher, and she was just like, why don't you come at dinner time and just sit in the back room and just play guitar? Basically, what she was doing without telling me was just to keep me out of getting up to mischief, just come and play guitar. It was by myself primarily. And that's sort of where I learned that I wasn't a very good guitarist. That I was a guitar. I think I've always wanted to play guitar, but for the sake of writing music, as opposed to, I didn't want to be playing 10-minute solos. You know, it wasn't my forte. I didn't want to know every single chord off by heart and understand how chords work. I wanted to write music and make songs that people would listen to and sing back and etc., rather than be focused on the guitar. But yeah, that's where it came to me. So I think I spent the best part of a year and a half secondary school just sitting in the back room at breaks and dinners playing guitar to myself. And it was only when I went to GCSE years that I picked music as an option, and then it was that daunting moment where you have to play to other people, and that's when I remember that was when the first insecurity sort of really came through, because it was a bit like when we went to the residential week. I remember that I work at the same school now actually, but I can see where I sat, where everyone sat round, and there's a few guitarists that were absolutely just brilliant. It's like when I watched you at Stu, and I was just like, you two are wicked on guitar, and there's me just thinking, well, I can play guitar, but I've always got by playing and singing at the same time and saying this is something I've created, rather than going, well, this is me playing a Led Zeppelin solo and it sounded like Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was that first feeling. And when somebody says to you that was pretty good, and you feel great for it, don't you? But such a horrible feeling, that first ever performance. And that for me was the one that, yeah.
So you can obviously still remember that quite vividly then,
Yeah.
when you're thinking back to like high school. And see, I don't remember when obviously you've listened to the Mark, like when I was speaking to Mark on the podcast. So Mark was in like one of my first bands in high school. Mark didn't do music. He was really into like drama and like musical theatre, and he still is. But it's always kind of blown my mind, because like for yourself, when I look at you when you were at Laban, so I got to know you through the workshops and things, and then we were put in different groups, so we were in different like ensembles to do different stuff. But when you were up on stage, so I was like looking at you as just as an observer. If I'd walked into a gig and seen you on stage, I think like there's someone who has tons of confidence, and you're very natural on stage, and it looked very very sort of well polished. And when I look at myself on stage, I think like, God, I look so uncomfortable, and I feel uncomfortable, and it blows my mind when I sort of speak to people like yourself, and you're still saying, yeah, I was, shiting myself about doing this, or so for that Laban performance, like, because for me it looked like you were just enjoying yourself and having fun, but inside, is that the same story that's going on in here?
Yeah, it was weird, because that was almost like my first ever performance, because I'd not performed on stage to anybody or to an audience of any sort of significance for 6-7 years before that. That was my first sort of performance, and it was really, obviously, that those ensembles were put together by sort of the tutors down there. So I was already out of my comfort zone. I've worked with musicians that I'd never worked with, and yeah, it was. I just remember we were on first, which was really lucky. It didn't give me the time to be as nervous as I would have been. I felt sorry for you, because you obviously had to go on at third, but yeah, we were first, so it got it out of the way with. But it sort of kicked back in. Because I've always been very much an advocate of fake it till you make it. That saying, when you play an instrument, particularly if you mess up, nobody really knows except you and your bandmates. If you just keep on acting like it's all going okay, it is. And I remember our tutor, John, made us do something 5/4. And on there, you can see, if you watch the video, you can see me trying to count out loud. It's just like, you're just doing things that I probably would never do on stage, because I'm always very much, I don't work with complex time. It's all just everything, 4/4 or 6/8, 3/4, maybe at a push. And we were doing that. And I remember sitting there, just things like that were making me nervous. But no, I don't know. I was definitely nervous, especially as I didn't have any gin and tonic before we started playing. So that didn't have to do that. That would have helped. But again, you're working with people. I was working in my ensemble. But some of the people in that ensemble were just wicked. I was definitely, without being too self-critical, the worst musician in that group, and I was aware of that. So I've probably always masked my insecurity with trying to be more of a outward showman. Because I think that's a good cover up, isn't it?
Well, when you're saying that, I feel very similar. So I often say to my students, and I don't know whether like my students believe me or not, or people believe me or not, like I'm super introverted, and I know I don't present like that a lot of the time. So like at Laban, for example, when we first got together in the groups, I was really nervous, and to compensate for that, I get a bit louder and I get a bit like more noticeable in the room. And when me being like a big dude as well, like I'm quite easily noticeable. So I'm like, but yeah, for me, it's a character, and like I don't feel, I never feel myself on stage, or like if I'm performing, to get through it, I always say like I'm pretending to be someone. I'm like an exaggerated, version of myself.
Yeah, so I heard that in one of you.
But like, because there's things, I mean, you might notice on my Laban performance, there's bits where, so one of our group, they couldn't make the last performance. And it kind of, I can't remember how it happened, but it ended up, it was just like, oh, well, Darren, you'll do the speaking bit at the start. And genuinely, like, those things don't bother me. And usually if I'm out in my function band or whatever band I'm playing in, I'm not really that nervous about the performance per se. Like, I can get through gigs and whatever else. I'm fine. But when I got up at Laban, it was really bizarre. I was fine. I did the sound check. I felt fine. And then I got up on stage and I looked around, and then for some reason I got really like dry mouth and like like super nervous and shiting myself. And I thought like, oh, what's going on here? And I had no reason to be. And then suddenly I felt like, oh no. And then there's a bit where like I had to do the speaking, and I was very like theatrical and had like my arms up and was doing silly things. And that was just completely overcompensating because I felt like a knob.
No, but it came across. I remember that, and it just came across so well. And obviously, if you're watching as the other people in that room that didn't know the sort of background that somebody had not been able to make it, you wouldn't know that wasn't sort of rehearsed. It came across so well. But I think there's something to be said, isn't there, about a performance it's not just about what you're doing musically. It's about everything else going on in there. It's about how you're sort of interacting on the stage with the audience, interacting with your bandmates, and you have to have chemistry, don't you, of some sort. And it doesn't matter what type of chemistry to a degree. It just has to be, there has to be different layers going on.
Yeah.
And I think you can, all the different bands I think about that night, you could see that. But just going back to what you said about the nerves, I agree. I think I was nervous because I've not performed for such a long time, but also when you do things, I've done things as a band at the pub, and you sort of play in the corner and you realise that actually probably 10 people in a room out of 50 are listening to you, and only 5 of them are actually giving a damn what you're doing. When we played that performance, you're like, everyone in there is people you've been working with, the lecturers, so everyone was watching you. You had people from the Open University, people from the Trinity Laban, everybody there was watching you. And then we also had different musicians that were at Trinity Laban themselves that were all grade 8 diplomas in their instruments. So they're brilliant musicians as well. So the pressure was just huge.
Yeah.
But it was such a good experience. That was after, wasn't it?
Yeah, man. And it's when you were saying like some of the other students we were working with. So like some of the lass that was doing violin for you, I can't think of her name now. Yeah. But yeah, these students that were like, there was the bass player, the lad, was it Nathan as well, that was doing like the double bass in Stu's group. These people were like, when I was speaking to him, he was like, oh yeah, I'm 18, I'm doing my first year at Laban. And I was like, Jesus, I'm 35. And I was like, I need to quit. If you're 18, doing stuff better than me and I'm studying, like, Jesus.
Yeah, no, but I think that's a good thing, and that's what it showed, isn't it? That people have got different strengths, and that's what makes music what it is, without trying to sound too philosophical. But there's lots of different strands to it, and you don't need to necessarily be a grade 8 musician to be a good musician. There's, I spoke to people that will say, "Well, I wish I could write songs." You that comes natural to you. It didn't, but if you've been doing it, I've been doing it since I was 14, and not telling people I was doing it. So it's one of those things that was to compensate for not being a great guitarist or a great singer. It was, well, if I can write my own music, then that's fine. And other people.
I'll stop you there when you say you're not a great singer. I distinctly remember you shooting up like 2 vocal ranges behind me, and like.
I think it had a gin at lunchtime. To be fair, mate, that was it. I'm glad that's the second podcast that you mentioned that, and thank you for that.
Honestly, but the thing is, like,
you mentioned about how good the choir was. I mean, what an experience that was.
Oh man. Yeah, the choir was the one thing when I'd seen it on the itinerary before we went. And I'd said to Audrey, my wife, I'd said like, oh, choir, like, like I'm happy singing. I'll sing with kids all day long at school. But it's like my weakest area. And I was like, oh, I'm going to suck at this. And there's going to be people there that are sight reading the notation and doing all this. And I was so nervous about it. But what a laugh, man. That was the best choir.
I think it was one of the best parts of the week, and I thought Adam Saunders, I think I'm pronouncing him right. He was just, if people are watching that, you want to get into a choir, because I thought of choirs as being what you imagine when you think of a choir, and it was nothing like that. There was no sight reading. It was very much learning from, talking the lyrics through and just doing different parts and laughing and joking, even just the warm-ups. I've come away with just doing some of those warm-ups as well. We're just messing around, singing it to my kids, those type of warm-ups. So it was just fun. And that's what music should be. Whatever you're doing, it should be fun. And that choir was just really fun. And, none of us wrote down any of the lyrics for that. And I bet you any money, if we went through it now, you could name me all the lyrics for those songs. and so good.
With the exception for, see, I think there's something wrong with my brain, right? Because especially when it comes to lyrics, so I felt like everyone around me was getting the lyrics really quick. But remember Route 66, that breakdown on Route 66, King Mambasto.
King Mambasto.
But yeah, like I felt like when I felt secure and that I had it, and then like I'd overhear someone go, "No, that's not the lyrics, it's this," and I'd be thinking, "Oh, you know, like."
Yeah.
But I have a real hard time with lyrics, like guitar and chords and whatever else, fine. But there's just a part of me that really struggles with remembering words.
Yeah. Well, the one that was good we could get away with was the one that was in South Africa. Was it Afrikaans it was in?
Yeah.
Because nobody knew it, so everyone was singing the wrong thing together, but it sounded great.
It's so much fun. The last performance we did of that, the only thing I'm gutted about is, like, for some reason I got stuck right in this front and centre, even though I'm like a giant, and I was trying to push myself back, because I'm always self-conscious about that, of being like a bigger bloke, and then when we did the choir, I distinctly remember getting pushed forwards. And I was stood in the centre stage and like, well, this is going to look weird.
It was fantastic. And the video makes it look like you're even taller because obviously the camera's low. And I remember I was stood sort of off your right shoulder. And it wasn't, you weren't as far as in front as you look like, but it looks like you're an egomaniac and it's brilliant. Get a photo and put it on the website or put it on your YouTube channel somewhere. You should put it in this video because it was just brilliant the way it looked because it wasn't like that. But yeah, it was just, yeah, they didn't think that one through, did they? Because bless Stu. Stu was like directly behind you. You just don't know Stu was there. I know he was there because he stood next to me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it looked like for the whole thing I was about to step forward and do like a crazy solo. And I bet people in the audience were like, what's that dude going to do? He's right in the front. I was like, nope, just trying to ease my way back.
Coming any minute, here it comes.
Yeah, but I used your vocals as a guide. Like, it was quite good being in front because you felt really confident through the whole thing. So if I got lost, I could always hear your voice cut through, and I could hear you, and I was like, oh, I know, like, Rich is doing that, so like I'm kind of in the right place here.
Yeah, let's sing soprano with Rich because his.
Especially when it came to Bully Boys, that was.
I just miss it. I mean, I'm not singing that every day, and I miss that the world. I'm gutted, sorry, that the world doesn't know about Bully Boys and just.
You know, fancy teaching it at your school? Do you reckon it'd go down well?
Thank God you said at school. I thought you were about to say it now. Let's do it live right now. No, I don't. I just like singing it to people. I think I WhatsApp it to run. You know, these silly voice notes. I can't get my head around people using WhatsApp voice notes, but I just WhatsApp voice note it to random people. I think I was with you and Stu when we did it once, and just send it to my brother. He's just like, gets a voice note of me singing Bully Boys, and he's like, why? And just not explaining why I'm singing it to him, and just things like that. That makes me more happy than teaching it to people. So.
I think so, man. It's such an infectious song as well. You sent me a link, I think, didn't you, to someone doing an arrangement of it on YouTube. It's brilliant.
Yeah, there's a guy. I can't think of his name, but he does a few sea shanties, and it's brilliant. It's really good. But yeah, I need to find some more. But yeah.
So I would like to take some time, if I can, just to ask you about. So it says here we're running out of time, but it's okay. We've got 10 minutes. It's cool. I would like to take some time just to ask you, because you've mentioned a few times about songwriting. And for me, I've always been part of groups, and if I do songwriting, I always do it collaboratively with someone else. So whether it's a singer comes to work with me and we record here in my little sort of makeshift studio, or we do, in a band. And it's the first time recently I've ever created my own song entirely by myself, and I found that excruciating to do, like really tough to do. And you're someone that's had a lot more experience than me at songwriting, so I'm curious as to, particularly with lyrics and melodies, like how you craft that and how you find the process.
Yeah, it was one of those things. I don't know where it came from. I think my dad showed me as a real, I'm going to embarrass him, as a real young kid. I remember him, he had a guitar around the house, and he played a song that him and a friend at school and wrote together. I couldn't tell you any melody from it or any lyrics. I just remember him playing to me 2 or 3 times as a kid. I think that's where my love for songwriting came from. And growing up on my dad's massively into the sort of mods. My mum was into sort of the rock sort of thing, but people that wrote their own music. So it was always a big passion of mine. And I practiced, like I said, from 14. I used to basically try and recreate every Blink-182 album. I was big into Blink-182 back in the day.
Nice, me too.
Yeah, you can't not be really. You're wrong if you say you didn't like 1 or 2 songs, but just writing those sort of 2.5 minute, really just catchy, infectious pop songs. But apparently, when we were at the Open University, Trinity Laban, Bruno was saying that the hardest way to write songs is doing the melody, lyrics, and guitar at the same time. That's how I've always done it. And I don't know why, but yeah. So I will start with I write about basically anything depressing. I find anything to write a happy song, you're an absolutely talented genius if you can write about happy things. It's so difficult to write about uplifting things. I try and write about true experiences. And that's sort of where I get my nucleus for most of my songs. But I'd never put anything out there for many years until I was about 18. So I'd done all of year 10 and 11. Again, not really showing people that I played music, doing a music GCSE, but not showing people. It was when I joined a band, the first band, and we had to write some songs. We were doing a plug and play, and we had to do a couple of covers, but everyone's like, well, we need to do something original. And I can't remember the name of the song. It wasn't that good, but it was one of those things. And it was the first time I remember putting myself out there. But it's one thing writing songs for yourself, isn't it? And thinking, oh, this is okay. I like singing that. It's another thing then taking it to band members. So the band I played with a guy called Ben Jones on drums, and he just knew music, like absolutely brilliant. He can play every instrument, and he can play to a good standard. And he knows how music connects and put together. I remember absolutely shitting myself trying to show him this song. So this is what we're going to play. Luckily, I got some sort of approval, and he was just like, "Yeah, that's a really good song." And I thought, if you're saying it's good, it must have something to it. But he always struggled with the songwriting process. Genius, absolute musical genius, but he just struggled writing songs. And it's like, again, that's what going back to what we spoke about before. About just music and how it all fits together. You have different strengths, don't you? But lyrics, I've gone off on a tangent. I can feel myself doing
No, it's I'm finding it super interesting to just hear how you're particularly. I'm going to come back to something in a minute, because when you're saying you write everything together, so you're saying about like the lyrics, the chords, the melody all together, that blows my mind, because I'm wondering are you okay for timing things, mate? Yeah. Are you okay if we disconnect and reconnect quickly, just because we'll get cut off in the middle, and it's always crap when it happens. It'll disconnect, and then it'll be about 3 or 4 minutes, and then just join again, and then we'll start again.
Cool.
2 seconds for that.